Stephen Zunes, Professor of Politics and Director of Middle Eastern Studies at the University of San Francisco. Professor, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, I want to get your assessment of Trump's tariff talks with Mr. Netanyahu. What are the chances that Mr. Trump will reconsider the tariff imposed on Israel in light of these talks?
It's hard to say. As with most of these tariffs, it's frankly hard to understand what the logic is behind it. I mean, there is a trade deficit with Israel, as there are with a lot of countries, but Netanyahu has already agreed to lift the relatively minor duties that they do have on American imports. And so, or exports, it's really hard to quite understand what exactly President Trump is trying to get at right here. But clearly, this is something that Netanyahu is trying to figure out and is hoping for some degree of flexibility out of Washington.
All right, Professor Zunes, so no immediate tariff relief is the takeaway, but notable developments on talks with Iran. Does it come as a huge surprise to you that both sides will actually be talking on Saturday after earlier statements from Tehran basically saying it's not going to be direct talks?
It is interesting to see what happens. I mean, Trump likes to see himself as a great deal maker, and he's the first president to acknowledge that Iran isn't necessarily interested in developing a nuclear weapon, that they haven't really made any firm decision in that direction. And so it raises the possibility there could be some movement. The issue, though, is they already had an agreement that would have made it physically impossible for Iran to develop a nuclear weapon, and Trump broke it off. This is an agreement that Iran had made, not just with the United States, but with Britain, France, Germany, China, Russia, and it was endorsed by the European Union and the United Nations. And yet Trump unilaterally broke it off, and that therefore enabled Iran to get out of its side of the deal and start developing its nuclear program. So they're now closer than ever to that kind of capability. So there's part of me that is also actually quite skeptical if this means anything. If he wants a deal, why not go back to the original one? And how is this going to be different? Because remember, the original deal took place after years of painstaking negotiations, and how he could somehow outdo what all these veteran diplomats had worked so many years on is hard to imagine.
I want to get your take on the format of these talks. And after Mr. Trump spoke, a senior Iranian official told Reuters that the talks will not be direct and that it will be with Oman's mediation. Why might Iran prefer indirect negotiation? What sort of realistic outcomes can we anticipate from this dialogue?
Well, there's a lot of divisions within the Iranian government. I mean, the more moderate forces are willing to talk and see how far they could get in some kind of negotiations. But there are hardliners who say, hey, we trusted the United States before. We had destroyed billions of dollars worth of equipment, only to have the United States renege on the agreement and impose additional sanctions. So, I think the contradictory statements we're getting is more of a reflection of divisions within the Iranian government. And direct talks seem to be a more safer compromise between the moderates and hardliners. But there also there really will be direct talks, and this is just a cover for political reasons, by Iranian officials.
Professor Zunes, we know that the Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu has long been skeptical about a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal. He didn't like the early one either. I mean, he's playing along right now. I mean, but what kind of assurances would he have sought, from President Trump about Tehran's nuclear capabilities and things in that direction?
It's hard to figure, actually, because most Israeli security analysts, like American security analysts, thought the original nuclear deal was quite solid. And it seems that Netanyahu, like Trump's opposition, seems to be more for political purposes than strategic ones. Netanyahu has been wanting to go ahead with some kind of joint Israeli-American military strike to try to physically destroy their nuclear capabilities, though most analysts believe this is quite unrealistic. And perhaps this is an effort to say, well, we tried to have his support for Trump moving ahead as well. We tried to move forward, and we didn't get what we want. So therefore, we now have permission to go ahead, because indeed, in these talks, Trump quite explicitly warned there would be serious consequences, including heavy bombing, if Iran didn't give in to his demands.
And just want to quickly move on to the issue of Gaza. Do you think any notable progress was made? I mean, they did talk about working on a new deal, to free the hostages. They talked about, moving Palestinians to different countries again. They seem to be the same talking points.
Exactly. And again, there already was an agreement to release all the hostages in return for an Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. But Netanyahu, with Trump's support, broke off that agreement and resumed a bombing. And it's really hard to imagine how Hamas or any other Palestinian party would agree to anything with the threat of massive ethnic cleansing hanging over their heads. And so really, I don't see much change or much progress regarding Gaza either from this agreement. And it does raise questions about why Netanyahu was summoned to Washington at Trump's initiative. Maybe there's something we don't know about, but on the surface, there really doesn't seem to be much of a shift or much of a change regarding Iran or Gaza.
Right. Okay, Professor Zunas, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you very much, as always, for talking to us. We've been speaking to Stephen Zunas, Professor of Politics and Director of Middle Eastern Studies at the University of San Francisco.